All right. Hey, guys, welcome to another episode of the sports show with no name. I almost forgot the name, but how could I forget the name? There is no name. As you can see on the screen, we have a special guest. It's not just Ben Bales and myself. We've got Nick Tarorick. You guys, if you watch Come On Ref, you know Nick. Nick, how's it been going, man?
I've been good. I've been enjoying the start to baseball season a lot lately. It's been a really good time in the sports world, like the past month or two with March Madness, baseball. The Masters last weekend was really fun to watch.
Yeah.
So it's just been a lot of good, fun sports stuff going on lately, and excited to talk about it.
Yeah, the NFL draft is coming up. I remember that used to be like the biggest event in Cleveland because it was like,
I love.
okay,
Yeah,
which quarterback are we going to draft,
growing up a Browns fan, that was my favorite event. Like I was such a big NFL draft fan when I was like a teenager. I would be making mock drafts and all that stuff because the Browns would have like 15 picks.
Yeah.
So I'd have to, have to get to know the players a little bit because,
Right.
That's all that mattered for the Browns for a while.
Yeah, who are the guys that are going to come in and go 2-14 next year? Like, yeah, you want to know who that was.
Hey, and now it doesn't matter at all. So
no, it doesn't. Yeah, but they don't have what?
It matters. It's just we haven't had a first round pick in 3 years.
I know, right? They're late second this year, right?
Yeah, 54.
Is that 54? That's right. Yeah, that's okay. Well, whatever. I mean, you can still get good quality players at the 54th pick, right? Like that's not bad. Yeah. It's just, whatever. Ben, what's been going on, man?
Nothing much. Just working, coaching baseball now. So hanging around sports like always.
It amazes me that they let you coach people and things, but that's fine. That's great. I'm kidding, man. I'm kidding. No, that's cool. How is that going? How's your baseball season going, man?
Pretty. I mean, we just started practices, so haven't played a game yet, but
I gotcha.
Can't tell you.
Cool. All right. Well, maybe we'll put together a lineup and we'll on one of the episodes we'll throw a lineup together and you guys can stick with it all season and see how it goes. Maybe we won't. Where do you guys want to start? Did you guys watch the spring game at all? Did you guys watch the Buckeyes spring game at all?
I caught highlights of it, but I didn't catch all of it.
Yeah,
I'll be honest with you.
I was switching over to it during a Guardians game, and I saw some of it. So
yeah, I'll be kind of honest with you. Like I love college football, but the spring games are kind of a boring watch for me. In one way, it's good. You want to see like some of the new guys, but they're so limited, right? They don't really do a lot. It's not like you're going to see them open up the playbook. It's not like we're going to be like, oh, well, now we're going to see Chip Kelly's, blocking schemes that are going to save the running game in Columbus. You're not going to see that stuff. It's just good to see some arms out there. And I think the quarterbacks played pretty well. I don't know. I was trying to kind of decide on where I really want my depth chart to be at quarterback. And I don't know yet. Do you guys think it's just obvious that Will Howard's going to start, or where are we at right now?
I do think Will Howard's going to be the starter. He wouldn't have transferred he wouldn't have transferred here from Kansas State for his senior year not to start. And Ohio State, they haven't had a true freshman starting quarterback since Braxton Miller. And that team was bad. That's the only reason they gave him a shot was because that team was just bad. Yeah. In a year where they're really trying to win a national championship and they're going all in, I just don't see them starting a true freshman, no matter how talented Julian Sayin and Aaron Noland are. And I do think Julian Sayin is insanely talented. I mean, the fact that he lost his black stripe earlier than any other Ohio State true freshman quarterback ever has shows how special of a talent he is. Yeah, I saw C.J. Stroud didn't lose his black stripe until October of his freshman year. Julian Sayin lost it a month into spring ball.
It's promising.
I think he could be the backup this year. I think he could be the backup this year.
I do too, but at the same time, if he's not the starter this year, I definitely think going into next year, he's the favorite over Aaron Noland.
Yeah.
I definitely think. I mean, I saw stats from the four quarterbacks that played in the spring game: Will Howard, Devin Brown, Aaron Noland, and Julian Sayin. Mm-hmm. And Will Howard and Devin Browning had the better stats, but then it was Julian Sayin, and then Aaron Noland had like 3 picks or something like that.
Yeah. Well, look, so, I mean, obviously Devin Brown's going to know the offense the best, or what's left of the offense. It's going to be a little bit different with Chip Kelly now.
Yeah.
But there's going to be obviously some familiarity there. There's going to be some players he knows. You got to get used to guys' speed. I mean, route running. It's all different. I think the thing that they've been talking about most with Sayin is his processing speed. He seems to process things so quickly. You got to be able to do that as a quarterback. You got to make good decisions. You got to make them quickly. You have 2-3 seconds sometimes to make a decision, and that's it. Especially in red zone situations, the Buckeyes haven't been good
No,
or at least they weren't good last year. They were really good with CJ Stroud, but not good in the red zone last year. Again, that comes down to quick decisions. And if Sain's the guy, that probably won't be this year. But I think Will Howard would be a little more capable. I mean, he's run, high profile offense. He's run offenses pretty well at Kansas State. I don't know. I trust Howard. I think he can manage the offense and do fine. I don't think, he's like a liability coming in or anything.
No.
I don't think Devin Brown's going to be the starter. I know he's been here.
I don't either.
Don't you think you'll probably see him at the transfer portal in the spring?
I do, even though he's said many times that he's not running from anything, he's going to be. But if you just can't win the start, if you want to start so bad, you might just have to transfer at some point. I respect Devin Brown for wanting to fight and continue to, because a lot of guys would just bail out. Kyle McCord bailed out instead of wanting to compete. There are a lot of QBs that we see just leave at the first chance they get, and Devin Brown hasn't done that. So I do respect that from him. And I do think he could be a solid starter somewhere in the I guess it's not Power 5 anymore. Power 4 is it now?
I don't even know anymore. I don't even know. It's changing every day, so who knows?
I think
Power 3.5.
I think he could start for a good program somewhere. So I do think honestly it would be in his best interest to hit the portal at some point.
I could see him at a Coastal Carolina. They've got teams like that have had a pretty good run lately. I could see him filling in nicely at a school like that. Not again, like you said, not Oklahoma, not USC, not Texas, but a team that's right there on that cusp. And now with a 12-team playoff, I mean, who knows? I mean, if he can slide into the right situation, you might see a guy like Devin Brown slide into the playoffs. You never know.
I still feel bad for him because that bowl game would have been his chance to really make an impact, put his name into the hat for the starting job this year, and maybe even take off and run with it if he would have had a huge bowl game. But he getting injured so early on in that game pretty much blew up any chances of that possibly happening. So I think he's a guy who will probably hit the portal maybe before this. I don't know if it'd be before the start of the year or if he would just wait till after this season. Yeah. I also think Lincoln Keenholz could be a guy that hits the portal at some point too.
I definitely think the future quarterbacks for the Buckeyes are Julian Sayin and Aaron Noland.
Yeah.
But if Julian Sayin starts next year as a sophomore, I don't think Aaron Noland will ever see the field. So I think he'll end up transferring too.
I think Noland at least is going to end up I think next year it will probably be an open competition between Noland and Sayin. So I think next year we're going to have those two guys battling it out. And then after that, the loser, I'm guessing, would end up transferring after that. Unless they want to, because Aaron Noland's another guy who said he's not going to transfer. He wants to stay and compete. So, but I mean, again, if you don't get a chance to start, you're the same class. They're the same class. So there really is no path for both of them being Ohio State's quarterback of the future.
Yeah.
So.
And we've seen it before. You can't do the two quarterback thing. It doesn't work.
No, I mean, we tried it in 2015.
Yeah. I think that decimates any momentum that you can get on offense. When you bring a new guy in, it's even the play calling in the huddle is different. I mean, everything is different. People are different. People aren't the same.
Yeah. Now, obviously, there's situations where they both could play, but you can't, like you said, you can't rotate them. If you want to throw some wrinkles at them, and like Michigan did last year with Alex Orji, right?
Yeah,
bring him in and just run like a QB draw.
But here's the thing: when you bring the guy in who's going to run the QB draw, I mean, what do? You stack the middle, right? It'd be one thing if you run the QB draw and then a guy like Alex Orji makes a throw downfield, or a guy like Devin Brown would come in, or whoever it would be, Aaron Noland at the time, whoever it is. If that guy can come in and if he's a throwing threat, that's fine. But if he's just going to come in and run, and that, and you're going to stack 9 guys in the box, and he's not going to go anywhere.
Yeah,
we did that with Devin Brown last year. We had packages where he would just come in and run the ball. Occasionally, Ryan Day would let him throw, but those drives usually didn't go anywhere when he would come into the game.
No, yeah.
And Brown almost always ended up turning his ankle trying to fight for another yard. It's just terrible luck, man.
I
think this will kind of lead into your question. I know you said you had a question for us about Ohio State quarterbacks. But hold on, I just want one point I want to make. I think it'll lead in perfectly to it. Don't you wish you could kind of take just a little bit of each of these guys' profile? You want Devin Brown's toughness and his competitiveness, right? You'd love to have Aaron Noland's running ability. You'd love to have Will Howard's he's been there, the experience, right? And then you want Julian Sayin's processing ability and his throwing ability. Too bad you can't mix all these guys together, right? And just create one hybrid quarterback. But Ben, go ahead. I know you had a quarterback question.
So my question is, and viewers, feel free to answer in the comments as well who you think. If you could choose any former Ohio State quarterback to lead this current Buckeyes team, who would it be? Nick, let's start with you.
This is tough. This is really tough because obviously they've had some really good QBs. the past 20 years, they've been on a pretty damn good run of quarterbacks.
Yeah.
And the first guy that I remember growing up watching was Terrell Pryor. So that's where I'm going since then pretty much because that's my lifetime of watching them. And
I think it's fair to start there when you're going with the since then, because before that it was a little bare. Like it's.
There's Troy Smith before that. So But my favorite quarterback growing up was Braxton Miller. He was my guy. I loved.
He was electric to watch.
The moves he would put in the open field. I mean, he was a running back playing quarterback that could also throw a little bit. Yeah. He wasn't like the way he moved in the open field is unlike any other quarterback I've seen for Ohio State. But I do just think in this offense, in this modern era of college football, and I just think this guy's the best guy that we've ever had. CJ Stroud's the best QB Ohio State's ever had. He just is. I mean, he's so damn good. It's a shame we never got him a national championship because the defenses weren't good when he was here. If you put him on this team with this defense, with this two running backs that are studs, Jeremiah Smith at receiver. I know Stroud had amazing receivers too, but I think CJ Stroud on this team, it's a national title for sure.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, it's.
So honorable mention to Braxton Miller, but I'm going CJ Stroud.
Yeah, that's a good.
There's all kinds of places to go with great honorable mentions here. And listen, I thought like when Ben first mentioned this to me, I was like, well, this is easy. It's CJ. Well, wait a minute. And I was like, hold on. Obviously, CJ Stroud had a great run here. I'm not faulting him for not winning a national championship. I'm not going to fault him for not beating Michigan. He had two fine games against Michigan. He threw for almost a combined 500 yards and 5 touchdowns.
You give up 300 rushing yards a game those 2 years. I mean, nothing CJ can really do about it.
Yeah, he's not going to go out there and play middle linebacker, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he probably could have, but he didn't. It's fine. He's not going to. But yeah, I think it's like for me again, it's a hybrid mix, right? It's like I wish I could have because Stroud didn't run a lot. We didn't see him run at all until the Georgia game. And then he was absolutely dynamic in that Georgia game. Remember how good the offense looked? I mean, they moved the ball. It looked like Georgia had 9 guys on the field all night. It was amazing.
Yeah. And that was voted the best defense in college football too. That Georgia team.
Yeah. So I wish
they did win the national title.
Field sometimes used to take it off. He used to take off a little bit too quickly, right? Like sometimes you'd be like, there was a guy there. There was a throw we could have had. There were 30 yards down the field. Okay, I get it. Justin Fields took off and got a first down. It was 3rd and 7. He got 7.5 yards, but we could be on the 18 going in right now, right? Instead, it's like you settle for a field goal, whatever. Fields was a great quarterback, but sometimes I feel like he just didn't see the field. And now we're seeing that a little bit in the NFL from him. I wish we could just kind of have like that hybrid mix where like, I guess give me a guy who knows when to run like JT Barrett, okay? Because JT Barrett always knew how to get you. Like I said, 3rd and 6, JT Barrett would go get you 7. In an otherwise dead play, right? He'd go get you 7 yards. So he just knew how to run. He wasn't like an electric runner. He wasn't Braxton Miller. He wasn't Terrell Pryor. He wasn't even CJ Stroud for that matter, scrambling. But he could always get you exactly what you needed. So give me like a hybrid guy. Can I pick a hybrid guy or do I have to pick a real guy?
I guess you can pick a hybrid guy.
Okay, give me JT Barrett's ability to know when to run and how to get that extra half a yard, right, for the first down. Give me that. Give me CJ Stroud's just pure passing ability. And give me Justin Fields' competitiveness. I think we're good, right?
I do think, honestly, the best combination of running and passing at the position we've had is Fields. Because, Fields in college was a dynamic passer. Obviously, he had time. In college, it didn't really matter how well he saw the field because we had such good receivers. He had such a big arm. He was accurate.
Yeah.
So it didn't really matter in college. So in college, I think Fields was the perfect combination of running and passing that we were looking for. Because if you look at a guy like Haskins, he had no mobility. CJ Stroud didn't run a lot. Braxton Miller was almost too much of was a runner first than a passer.
Yeah.
JT Barrett was a mix, but he really wasn't amazing at either. It was just a kind of combination of both.
And he just was really competitive. He didn't make he couldn't make all the throws like CJ Stroud or Fields could.
No. And then you get Cardale Jones, he just had the massive arm and the ability to run, but he just was not refined at all as a player. So I think if
Devin Brown wouldn't have been here during Cardale Jones' time, I don't think he would have been as effective of a quarterback. They needed a guy to just go take the top off and go, right?
Yeah.
And talking about Cardale Jones, that's actually where I went with this. I think if you put this current team around Cardale Jones with the 2 running backs we have, he wouldn't have to run the ball as much, and you could still air it out. And he is the only quarterback to win us a national title in the last how long?
Yeah, but can he make those back shoulder throws like to the other sideline, like CJ Stroud could? Like that's what
I mean,
I
he has
think.
the arm. He has the arm too.
He has the
He
arm
was
too, but
not
I don't know if he has the
accurate.
accuracy.
He wasn't very accurate in the short levels. See, my thing with Cardell is we never saw it over a full season. I really don't know how good of a quarterback Cardell Jones is or was back then because he had a great 4-game stretch. Yes, he did.
Yeah.
But then the next year he didn't look as good in the regular season. That's why JT ended up getting his job back.
Yeah.
And then in the NFL, he flamed out instantly. So it's like I really don't know how good Cardale Jones was. It was just because it was just 4 games. It was kind of like a Nick Foles type thing where it was like 4 games. He looked amazing, but every other time we've seen him play, he doesn't look like that player. So what player really is Cardale Jones? I don't know, but I'm forever grateful for those 4 games. He looked amazing.
Yeah,
and he's a legend for those 4 games for sure.
I mean,
it's just looking back on it, how truly good was Cardale Jones, and how would he look over a full season as a starter? Because he never had that. He never had a full season as a starter.
He never did. But I also think it's, Urban Meyer's loyalty to JT Barrett, because we had so many quarterbacks that could have started over JT Barrett, but what did JT Barrett do? Won football games, and that's why he was playing for.
Yeah,
he did, and that's why he was playing for. That's why he played for Urban Meyer. But like, my reasoning for it is he might not have been the greatest refined passer, but if all he has to do is throw the football, it's easier to become more refined passing because you don't got to worry about running. You can make we saw him for 4-game stretch, but it looked like he was progressing through his reads.
Yeah,
like
he wasn't afraid of contact. We know that he was not afraid of contact.
And I think if you give him this receiving core with these running backs, he doesn't have to do much. You just got to get the ball in their hands, and they'll make the plays.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with you. I feel like there's no bad answer here. I mean,
because he did win us a national. We did win a national championship with him as our quarterback. So I think honestly, any of these guys with any of the previous guys in the past 10, 15 years, if you put them on this team, they are capable of winning a national championship.
Yeah, no.
With this roster, obviously, it doesn't mean they would automatically if these because we had good quarterbacks with really talented teams and didn't win before. So I'm not saying it's like an automatic lock we'd win a title with these guys, but I do think if you took a look at all these guys from the past, like if you put Terrell Pryor on this team, we could win a national championship. If you put Troy Smith on this team, we could win a national championship.
Yeah.
I mean, but if you put, as we saw last year, put Kyle McCord on this team, you can't. You're probably not winning a national championship.
But like Chad, like you said, I don't think there's any wrong answer to pick here. Because, and Nick, like you said, we've had great quarterbacks over the last 10, 15 years.
For sure.
And I think what's hurt us the last couple of years is our defense. It hasn't been great. You're returning almost every single cornerback. You're returning a bunch of your D-line. Yeah. Only place you really need help in is linebacker.
Always, though. Yeah.
Yeah. But, we get Caleb Downs from Alabama. Dude's a stud.
I think him in the box a bit will help out with that linebacker thing.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, he likes to play downhill too. So that's good. I mean, that's
Yeah, and I think
like having another outside linebacker there.
Going back to kind of like Nick, what you said about CJ Stroud. Like if you gave Stroud this defense, you wouldn't have to rely on him scoring 30, 40, 50 points a game just to win you a football game. Even if Stroud has a bad game where maybe he throws for only 200 yards and maybe he throws 1 touchdown and 1 pick, the defense can still win you that football game.
And we have 2 1,000-yard backs from last year.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I'm saying. How are you supposed to game plan for this Ohio State team? If we don't win a national title, it's a fail of a season.
No doubt. I mean, with all the money they spent in NIL, this is a national title or bust season. I do think also if they beat Michigan, I mean, I honestly don't even think that because Michigan's gonna be bad this year in my opinion. I think they're just. I agree with you. A good team at all. So I don't even think that. Like they should be. It's more of if they lose to Michigan, like Ryan Day's getting fired is more the because I do think if you lose to a bad Michigan team this year, that would be the case.
I was gonna say it makes a difference. If Michigan comes in 11-0 and surprises everybody and beats Ohio State, it's not as bad. But if they lose to an 8-4, 8-3 Michigan or 9-3 Michigan team, that's bad. I
think Michigan's gonna come into that game 8-3, 7-4, or something like that. That's really where I see it. So I think it's more like this year with all the money you spend on NIL. All the new, brought in Chip Kelly, brought in all these transfers,
Quinshawn Junker.
If Ryan Day doesn't win with this team, then will he ever be able to win? That's really I think that's a fair question.
If
it doesn't happen this year.
Here's a question for you guys, just off the top of the head. If Ryan Day gets fired, does Brian Hartline get a look for the head coaching job at Ohio State?
I don't know if I feel like they'd want to go big. I feel like they wouldn't just promote another assistant like they did with the day. I feel like they'd want to go out and get a big time guy if that would happen. But I don't think
it's not going to be Chip Kelly. We know he doesn't want to be the head coach, right?
No.
Yeah.
I mean, shit. If Mike Vrabel's still a Browns assistant this time next year, doesn't have an NFL job, maybe it could be him. But again,
dude,
I don't want
any part of recruiting or the NIL stuff.
Yeah. Again, I really don't think I don't think Day will be fired this time next year, just because I do think that they're going to beat Michigan this year. They're at least going to get back into the playoff. It would have to be disastrous for Day to get fired. Like they would have to lose. If they lose to Michigan this year, Day would get fired. That's the only way I really see it.
No,
so if they're 11-1 with a loss to Michigan, who was also 11-1 or 12-0, you think he's fired? Or you think he's okay?
not that type of like a loss to like a worse Michigan team in my
like a 7-4, 8-4. Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
But I do want to say,
if they lose to Oregon, do you think it's a realistic possibility they could lose to Oregon or no?
I do think they could lose to Oregon, but then, since that game is, it's earlier in the season, so it's like I think they could recover from that and still make the playoff and still beat Michigan and
especially with a 12-team playoff for sure.
Yeah. Like with a 12-team playoff, there's no reason Ohio State shouldn't make it, right? Yeah. Like
ever,
even if you lose one game at the beginning of the year,
aren't we the only team that would have made it all 10 years of the 14 playoff there if it was 12-team?
Yes,
I believe we're the only
team. And we're also the only team. The year we won it, we're the only team to start outside of the top 15 to make it into the college football playoff. The first year we won it, the first initial rankings, we were ranked 16th in the country.
There you go.
And then Cardell Jones went on that, 4-game stretch and led us to the promised land.
Without that loss to Virginia Tech, that never happens. They would have been top 3 or 5.
Yeah.
Whatever.
But reason why I asked Brian Hartline is because, Nick, like you said, we don't, obviously we don't know if Vrabel, would want to deal with, NIL and recruiting. But that's what makes Brian Hartline so damn good is his ability to go out and recruit guys, not just receivers.
No.
Because he's the big name that recruited Caleb Downs to Ohio State. I don't know if you guys saw that story or not. He had the in-house visit with Caleb Downs that locked it up for Ohio State. Like, that's the only reason why I asked it, because nowadays you have to be a good recruiter and you have to be good with NIL, and Brian Hartline seems to be great with both.
Yeah, I just think that that would be a big leap almost for him. Like, just because obviously OC at Ohio State's a big position, but it's like when you're a program like Ohio State, a top 5 college football program of all time, you want to hire the home run coaches. You want to hire Alabama just took Alabama. Their coach retired. They took a coach from a team that was in the national championship game last year. Michigan, when they hired Jim Harbaugh, they took him from the NFL. He had coached in a Super Bowl in the NFL. Like these big time programs. And again, that's what Ryan Day wasn't. Ryan Day wasn't the big name. Ryan Day wasn't a former head coach at all in NFL or college before he was the Ohio State coach. Right. So I don't know if they'd want to do that again, where they just promote a first-time guy as head coach.
No, I get it. I feel like I get what you're saying.
If they fire Day, it would have to be for a home run type hire.
Who do you get? Who would it be?
Exactly.
Depends on who's available. I
don't know.
I don't know either. I can't think of a name off the top of my head. I haven't been able to think of one.
Dustin Fox.
Again, I know it's the NIL stuff with Vrabel, but I do think if he gets offered the Ohio State job, his alma mater, I don't think he'd turn it down. Honestly, especially if he can't get back into the NFL, maybe.
Yeah. And like I said, even if you are, a first year, not head coach, but a first year college head coach, like Vrabel in sense.
Yeah.
You can learn from guys like, Ryan Day, or not Ryan Day, but guys like Brian Hartline on how recruiting works and how NIL works, and you can become good at it. Like you can become great at it. But I also think Ohio State, like Nick said, needs a guy that is an established coach. Because
I think Ohio State has enough of a support staff. I don't think that would be a problem for Vrabel. I think it would just be actually going out to do the in-home visits, and dealing with all the transfer portal stuff and all the NIL and giving money to guys to keep them happy. I just think that would wear on him after a while. It's like in the NFL, you get a guy under contract for 4 years. That's it. You might have to franchise tag him, but that's it.
It's wearing on a lot of college coaches right now. Chip Kelly left UCLA for pretty similar reasons. Nick Saban talked about he retired for similar reasons. Dabo Swinney's Clemson program's falling off because he won't embrace these things because he doesn't like these things. So there's a lot of college, like Jeff Hafley left Boston College to go be an NFL defensive coordinator because he didn't want to deal with these things. So it really depends on if you're willing to embrace it or if it is something that you're willing to tackle. And it is a lot. So it takes a lot of commitment.
And think about how much responsibility head coaches already had, right? You got to keep 120 guys out of trouble, right? All the time. At all times, they got to be out of trouble. You worry where guys are, what they're doing. Man, it's a nightmare. Now all this stuff too. It's a nightmare. It's tough.
Before we move on, I want to ask one. I want to ask one more question. I don't know if you guys saw, but what's your guys' thoughts on the 2-minute warning and the microphones coming into college helmets? What's your Chad? We'll start with you.
I mean, I think we've seen it because of recent events that I think the in-helmet communications, I think that's necessary, right?
Yeah.
I think some of it's pretty weird. You can only talk to your quarterback until like 15 seconds before.
That's what it is in the NFL though too.
Okay, well, that's just there's gonna be a lot of guys that are gonna have a problem getting used to that, right? In college, it's gonna be tough. You're gonna be in the middle of a play call, and the audio is gonna go out, and your quarterback's gonna be like, "Shit, what?" You know what I mean? Like, whatever. Not that doesn't happen now, but I'm sure they'll have some kind of, I don't think the guys in different colored polos and all the SpongeBob sign, I don't think all that stuff's dead, right? I think we're still going to see some of that stuff.
Yeah.
Because you still have to have like somewhat of a baseline. You can't wholly rely on the in-helmet communication because,
or especially, yeah.
Like what if it goes down? I mean, you've seen it in the NFL before with, certain places like Gillette Stadium when it was back at Gillette Stadium and the Patriots. Opposing, the communications would go down for opposing teams. I mean, what if that happens at college? Brand new system, whatever. I don't think a 2-minute warning is necessary at all. I think it's a TV thing. It's a money thing, commercial to add more commercials, whatever.
No, I agree.
It's fine. It's not a big deal.
You know what's fun? I have something funny about that. So, my dad's been watching college football his whole life. He went to Ohio State. Literally last year, I was watching the game with him, and he said, "Wait, when's the 2-minute warning? Ohio State game." He has been watching college football his entire life and always still thought there was a 2-minute warning. That's how unnoticeable that it is. That's how
it's unnecessary. It's absolutely, it doesn't make a difference. But it's fine.
Literally been watching
college football for 40 years. That's all it is. It's just the fourth time. Yeah, if you use it correctly, it's the fourth time out. If you don't use it correctly, it can bite you. But
no, but I mean, like you said, I think the in-helmet communications are good, not only because it eliminates in-person sign stealing, but at the same time, if these quarterbacks really want to play at the next level, that's what it's like the next level. You got to get used to it.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's where a lot of guys struggle when you make it to the NFL is hearing the play and then having to, recite the play in the huddle. And if you get these guys who have had NFL experience calling plays or have been around an NFL, playbook, Ryan Day, bunch of these guys, they have those, long drawn out, like play calls, like, the 14, 15 letter word or plays. And if these quarterbacks can't recite it, they're not going to be successful in the NFL. Yeah, but like you said, going back to what you said about, the signs and the different color, guys wearing different color polos, I still think those are going to be round one for audibles. Like when they run up to the line, and they all look over, you're going to see those. You're going to see that happen.
Yep.
But I just think that you won't see as much confusion coming out of the huddle or looking over because it's going to be in the microphone. It's going to be in the headset.
I do have a question about this. I mean, it could be way off here, but them trying to lessen the signs and trying to make it more in-helmet stuff, does that any fallout maybe from the Michigan thing where they were stealing the signs on the field?
It has to be.
And now they have
it can't be right. Can't be right.
It could be.
Yeah, there's you ask any Michigan fan, Nick, they'll tell you it's a big old nothing burger. Don't worry about it.
I mean, they just got 3 years probation for a completely separate incident, and now they haven't even gotten the hammer on this one yet, so we'll see what I mean.
And they're the way it's set up too is they're going to be considered repeat offenders now when they get sentenced, or not sentenced, but when they get sanctioned the second time.
Isn't it when you're on 3 years probation, like for college football, doesn't that mean you can't do anything else wrong either? So they already have so aren't they going to get punished even harsher? Never mind. Nothing's going to happen. It's not a real story.
It's a nothing burger. Yeah. What are you talking about? Yeah. Nothing.
What they get the 3-year ban for?
Nothing. There's no 3-year. They're just going to deny that too, Ben.
No,
it was the recruiting thing. The cheeseburger
probation for the recruit.
Yeah, inappropriate contact. All kinds of little stuff like that. Yeah.
It's not a ban. It's just probation.
Little stuff that they didn't self-report and that they denied. So that's the problem.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Ohio State self-reports that stuff. Hey, we accidentally, responded to an Instagram story. We tweeted a recruit outside the dead. Oops. You know what I mean? Like we had an on-campus visit. A coach ran into a player during a dead period. Sorry, we did that. Michigan's like, what do you mean? We don't recruit football players. I have no idea what you're talking about. You know what I mean? Like they just denied everything. You got to be a little bit transparent. The NCAA goes, hey, let us in. Right? Like they want to know what's going on. And
while we're talking about, while we're talking about college football and, we mentioned the Buckeyes. You guys see J.K. Dobbins to the Chargers?
Yeah, I did see that.
Playing for Harbaugh. That's going to be interesting.
Yeah. I don't think it matters anymore at this point,
no,
right?
It doesn't. It's just funny.
But I mean, we do know that Harbaugh does like to run the football. So I mean, this could be if Dobbins can stay healthy, it might be his breakthrough.
Hey, let me ask you this. This just ran through my head. The in-helmet communications. Do you think it's an attempt to speed up the game a little bit?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's probably more what
because now you're going to get, like you said, you're going to get these play calls in before 15 seconds on the play clock. You're not just going to sit there and wait and have your lineman. You're not going to wait 15 seconds to run a play now, right? Like, I don't know.
No, it just goes back to the whole every league trying to speed up their games, even though I don't think really that many people are asking for it because we like watching sports and we like we like being able to sit it. We don't want the game to end early, but baseball's doing it, football's doing it, basketball, they're all doing it where they're trying to speed up the game. And I get it. But
why are we catering to people who don't care about watching the sport? You know what I mean? Like,
the people who argue that it's too long to watch aren't the fans of the sport, so they're trying to get more casual viewers. Than
they're the people that only watch like the championship games and stuff like that. Like,
that get mad because the game starts at 8 and they have to go to bed at 10 because of work. I understand that, but I mean, hey, what are you gonna do? You know what I mean?
I've had that argument. I've had this argument about baseball for years. I don't know. It is what it is.
Baseball was fine. It didn't need sped up. I mean, it was a perfect game. I loved those moments in the playoffs where it was just that tension builds, and now it's like every 13 seconds there's a pitch. You know what I mean? Like it's.
I mean, I don't hate the pitch clock. I think I don't really notice it. I don't really notice it while watching that much, honestly. No. But it is. I just don't get the whole effort. Like everything needs to be done to speed up the game. I don't.
Well, now they're talking about even making the pitch clock shorter. And by the way, I don't think that's contributing to injuries at all. By the way,
I don't either. I don't think
that's the thing. I think it's the sticky stuff. I think it's all I think it's the spider tack problem. I think guys are gripping the ball too hard and.
I mean, if we're gonna go into this now, I genuinely think it's the youth. It's the whole way people are being trained from the youth to the majors. Every person is focusing on throwing as hard as they possibly can. They're doing high velo training. They're doing med balls. They're doing all these different exercises every day. Like I've seen some of the way my friends who are college pitchers train right now, and it's like, and I asked my uncle about this, who was drafted by the Orioles in 1997. He said back then you just threw, and if you threw hard, you threw hard, and if you didn't, you didn't. It wasn't like this high intensity training that they do now, where everyone's trying to peak their velocity and max out their arms. People would just throw back then. It's the emphasis is so much on velocity and just maxing everything out that you possibly can. It's leading to so much more injuries, and the whole thing with people putting innings limits on people, making people throw less and being cautious, that doesn't work. Look at all the people that have gotten innings limits put on them, like Steven Strasburg, career over by age 31 because he got it. Everyone thought that the shutdown that'll make him last longer. No, it didn't. Yuri Perez last year for the Marlins, they shut him down. Tommy John this offseason. Gavin Williams last year, they shut him down. He's injured now. The innings limits don't work. Making them pitch less doesn't work because if you look at back in the day, people were throwing more and there were less injuries. It was just because people weren't doing it's the training. It's the velocity training.
I don't understand that. I mean, that's first of all, throwing a ball overhand is absolute hell for your shoulder. I mean, it's terrible for your shoulder. I mean, you might as well throw a hand grenade in there and let it go off, right? It's not good for your shoulder at all.
I talked about this with my uncle. Me and my uncle always said, if we could recreate the rules of baseball, we would make people pitch like softball pitchers because it's more natural for your arm.
Yeah, maybe.
Obviously you can't, but
listen, I think another reason guys are getting hurt is because everybody's trying to hit 105 now, right? Everybody's trying to throw it through a brick wall. And growing up, I mean, I heard, my God, you guys from Division I college coaches, from really good Legion ball coaches around where I'm from. I mean, I always heard, listen, when you're a starting pitcher, you go at about 70-75%, and then when you need it, you dial back and maybe you throw 3 or 4 miles per hour harder, but you don't go max effort as a starter. And now it's max effort for 7 innings. It's guys throwing 104 miles per hour for 100 pitches. It's wild.
And look at Shane Bieber. This offseason, went to Driveline, trained all offseason to get his velo back up. That's what he did. 2 starts into the year, elbow's gone. It's everyone's, and you hear all these stories. Like I hear it in high school level now. Like I've seen friends, like some of my friends who played, they'll in one off season, they'll put 6 or 7 miles onto their velocity. And that's not normal. That's not through these training. It's not normal and it's not good for your arm.
That's not natural for for the tendons and ligaments. They can't handle that load.
And these pitch count again, and it's like, and everyone thinks you can combat it by making him pitch less. No, it's gonna happen eventually. Like it just is.
Yeah. I agree with you.
I wanna talk to Nick Dearborn about Shane Bieber's injury. I actually think this injury occurred last year. He just didn't completely tear it because he was wearing an arm sleeve, and he said it's because he felt discomfort in his arm. So, I mean,
let's just do the Guardians first. Then let's just go to the Guardians because we were going to talk about the Cavs next. But let's just talk about the Guardians because there's so much. We're opening up a baseball can of worms here, and I have thoughts on this. I have thoughts on it. You know, this is something, Ben, that you asked me. You asked me, why is Bieber getting surgery and why is McKenzie pitching? It doesn't make sense. So I started to look into that, and I think it's just I think it comes down to contracts. Honestly, it's just a contract year. Shane Bieber doesn't want to go out and throw 10, 12, 15 more starts with the torn UCL. And that's the recency bias, right? Like he puts a warm plate of garbage on the table, right? And no team's going to go, hey, let's give this guy 5 years, 180 million to come pitch for us. It's not going to happen. It doesn't matter if he was injured or not.
We want to keep him.
What's that?
It's a good thing. That's a good thing. We want to keep him.
Well, that's fine. That's fine for the Guardians. That's great because he'll probably come back on an incentive-laden contract, right? He'll get like a prove me deal, and then he'll go into another contract year. I think he wants to go into that contract year fully healthy. I don't blame him for that. Where I think McKenzie's the exact opposite. Tristan McKenzie's under team control until 2027. So I think for him, it's like, hey, show some loyalty to the organization now, right? Worst case scenario, you end up having the surgery. You know you're going to have it, but you get through September, October, have the surgery immediately in the offseason. You take a whole season off, and then you come back into your contract year. You're coming back. You're fully healthy, recovered. You're a year and a half out of surgery or whatever, and you're full strength, supposedly, hopefully, allegedly, right? I just think it's the difference in years. I just think it's McKenzie has a little more time to work with, and Bieber doesn't.
The frustrating thing with McKenzie is he took all that. Like last year was he missed all of last season. So I mean, he doesn't pitch. He pitches 2 games last year. Comes back this year. It just still isn't the same. I mean, I feel like at this point it's already torn. So I don't know how much of like a ticking time bomb it is or not. But it's going to need it eventually, and he's clearly not as effective. So, but now if he has it at some point this year, he's going to end up missing all next year as well. So that's going to end up wiping out 3 years of his career, his 3 prime years, pretty much. He's in his prime age-wise right now.
I think what he wants though is just to reset clockwise. I think he just wants to get through a season and have a surgery at the end of a season, as opposed to in the first couple of months where it's like, his rehab is starting. Everybody else is starting in February, and he's starting in March. And it's like. Yeah. I feel like he's rushing back through that a little bit, where maybe he just wants to get the clock back reset and have that full off season. I don't know. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's just my guess.
I mean, Nick, I texted Chad this. I mean, my dad looked it up, like what a UCL does for a pitcher, and he's like, it said the pitcher can't throw full speed, so that's why his velo's down around 89, 90.
Yeah.
And sometimes your fingers go numb and you can't grip the ball. So when you're trying to spin a curveball, it's going to slip off your hands, and you're going to leave a hanging curveball, and a guy's going to hit a nuke about 900 feet.
Or even worse, you're going to try to flip your wrist over and get that pronation, and you're really going to tear your UCL up.
Yeah.
And I mean, he's on. I'll give him credit. He's had what, 4 starts now, and I think 2 good, 2 bad is how it's been.
Last night was good.
For the fact that I was at the opening day game. He pitched good in that game as well. He was striking people out that game. He looked good in that game, but he's still just. His velo's down, his command isn't there fully. So it's going to be a struggle for him to get through this season. But if he can still give them some quality innings and if he can end up with an ERA around 4, I would take it from him, honestly.
This could be a good opportunity for him to learn how to pitch without his best velocity. Then when he comes back full strength, like you've got that in the tank, because he's always struggled with command a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the thing with Bieber. Yeah, Bieber was hurt last year, had that surgery. But we still saw that even when Bieber's velo was down, he was still able to dominate. And like you said,
last year was his worst year by far, though. He looked
last year was his worst year, but he was still good.
He still had some really good starts.
He wasn't striking people out last year. That was the thing. He learned learned how to get people out by not striking them out as much. This year, he came back and had the strikeout stuff back.
And I think
when he has that, that's when he's at his best, obviously.
Yeah, and I think like Chad said, I think if McKenzie can learn how to get people out without his best stuff, when he gets healthy again, when he's able, ramp it up to 94, 95 when he has to.
Yeah.
Those games, where he's not himself and he doesn't, he can't find the strike zone. He can just dial it back a little bit, throw it 89, 90 and still get guys out.
I think a lot of it is just he doesn't have the confidence to throw in the strike zone. I think you know what I mean? Like he just doesn't have it. And when you start to see yourself, throwing 89, 90 and getting guys out by throwing strikes, and you realize you're throwing to contact and it's a good thing, it gives you a ton of confidence, right? Like
it does.
You're like, well, I can do this. I can hit a bat. I can get an out. And I think that helps your command. It's like you're not so afraid to throw a ball in the zone. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I just want to say, rest in peace to Andres Jimenez's glove. Finally had to switch gloves. I don't know if you guys saw that.
No, what happened?
His old reliable in the Boston game, late in the game, apparently, he made a play, went back in the dugout. Luckily, the game was over, but his glove broke, and they tried to repair it, couldn't repair it, so now he finally had to switch gloves.
Man.
I mean, but that dude, I mean...
can he afford it? Is he okay?
I hope so. I mean, hey, first play he got with his first glove, he missed the play, so I don't know.
He missed it. Yeah, he missed the ball yesterday. He missed the ball yesterday.
But no,
I hate breaking in a new glove, man. I hate it.
I do too.
I was talking with people about this Guardians team, and the sad part about this Guardians team is that if you rewind a couple of years to that Yankee series, Terry Francona said, in a couple of years, we're going to be really, really good. And it sucks that the man that's been here for the last decade isn't here leading the team that he built.
I agree, but I also think it's for the best that Stephen Vogt's our manager right now.
No, I do too. No,
damn good manager.
I 100% agree with you.
He's gotten the most out of his guys through 20 games for sure. I mean,
Terry Francona left Stephen Vogt in probably the best possible position he could have. A young team
he did.
With good talent and a great support staff around him. I think I legitimately think that over the next couple of years we could be one of the best teams in baseball. And our starters aren't even healthy. We're down Gavin Williams. You're down Shane Bieber. McKenzie's hurt. You're basically rocking with 3 starting pitchers in Bybee, Allen, and Carrasco.
Guys, I'll be right back.
Yeah, and your other 2 starters are just kind of just guys that you need to have spot starts.
Yeah.
I
think the team's in a really good position right now. I do. I love the start to the year that they've had. The offense to me has been the exciting thing. And what I'm so excited about is this team is finally hitting for some damn power. Thank God. I'm sick of the slap ball. I was so sick of watching it the past 2 years. The team was so boring to watch last year. And now this year, Josh Naylor's hitting the crap out of the ball this season.
Yeah.
He's 989 OPS right now through 20 games. Yeah.
Stephen Kwan's hitting for more power than usual, and he's looking like one of the best players in baseball. Honestly, Stephen Kwan has been so far this year. I mean, the top 4 in that lineup is legitimately good. You have Kwan, Jimenez, Jose, Naylor. 4 really good players.
Which is pretty good when your payroll is like $78 million or whatever. That's pretty good.
Yeah. And so then after that, it's about finding the guys who are going to fill in around that core group of 4 guys. And I think Bo Naylor's one of those guys. He's gotten a bit unlucky this year. His on-base percentage is still very good. He's slugging. He looks solid.
He'll be fine.
Yeah, Bo Naylor's the catcher of the future. He can hit.
Yeah.
Tyler Freeman has been impressing me lately. He started off hot, then was really cold for a while, but the past 2 series now, really ever since the start of that Boston series, he's picked it back up a bit. And I don't know if you guys saw that play he made yesterday. Turning around.
Was incredible.
That was for a guy who just started playing center field in spring training. That was ridiculous. So if he can play a good center field, and I also saw a stat yesterday that Zach Meisel, Guardians writer for The Athletic, put out. Guardians home runs by center fielders last season, 3. Guardians home runs by center fielders in 2022, 0. Guardians home runs by center fielders in 2024, 3 already.
There you go.
So they have as many home runs by center fielders already this season as they did the past 2 years combined.
So did they did they get tougher just by putting a catcher at the helm? Like, is that what happened here? They just
I don't know
put Stephen Vogt at the top and that's it. They get tough?
I do think though. So the hitting coach Chris Valleca, he came out this offseason and said they want to hit the ball harder. They were very loud this offseason about not trying to change their approach at the plate. Yeah, it's good to make a lot of contact, but if you're not hitting the ball hard, it doesn't matter. So I don't know if that was Tito that was enforcing that mentality into the team, or if that was just how the whole organization operated last year. But it shows clearly that this year they have a new hitting philosophy.
Yeah,
and
listen, it's great to have a bunch of guys that don't strike out, but what the Guardians had last year, it was like single, double play, fly out deep to center.
You can't get the runners in. You'll get a guy on base, but who's going to hit him in? Who's going to hit him in?
Yeah, there are always guys on first and second, always. You know, but never. Nobody was ever scoring.
I mean, Nick, we went to that Blue Jays game last year. We had like 9 hits, and the game was 1-0. We ended up winning 1-0.
Yeah.
We won on a Josh Naylor double that was down the line. That Naylor only got a double because they tried to get Arias out at home.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I love the way this team's going right now, and I can't imagine when they add Kyle Manzardo, who is a guy that looks like he's going to rake. Everything points to him raking, and then Chase DeLauder, who is the best hitting prospect we've had in my entire lifetime watching this team, pretty much, to come up. I mean, he looks like a bona fide superstar.
And you've got room for these guys. That's the thing. You've got room. There's room for them to come in and do some things.
They have the #1 overall pick in the draft this year. In what looks like a pretty good draft class, there's 3 college bats that are going off this season that all look like studs.
The guy from Florida. Good Lord.
Him too as well, the two-way guy.
Jack Caglione.
But there's
We have 9 straight games in the home run right now?
Yeah.
His last home run
from Oregon State as well has been he's kind of the favorite to go #1 right now, I think. The guy from Georgia, the 6'6" guy who's just got 20 homers already.
That dude's wild.
And then there's a first baseman from Wake Forest, Nick Kurtz, who people are comparing to Jim Thome. I mean, like there's a so
not
it
a
seems
bad
like
pro comparison.
No, so I mean, like if they had DeLauder, Manzardo, even a guy like Juan Brito, say if Arias or Rocchio doesn't take off at shortstop and we end up needing another guy maybe there, then Juan Brito maybe could be that guy. This team's future all of a sudden looks very, very bright, seemingly out of nowhere. I mean, not out of nowhere, just after last season, fans were down and fans were kind of concerned with the way the team was going. But, I mean, I think right now it looks like this team has a bright future. It all kind of depends as well on starting pitching. We need Tanner Bybee to pitch better than he has so far this year. We need Gavin Williams to come back.
Yeah, we need rookie or Tanner Bybee.
Listen, it kind of reminds me of 2014 when the Guardians, well, they were the Indians then, but when the Guardians were good, they were okay. They weren't great, but you said, man, if this team added the right couple of pieces, they could go to the World Series and make some noise. And they added the right couple of pieces, and they went to the World Series. They made noise.
Like Lindor comes up, Jose Ramirez breaks out, and then the team takes off. That's really what it was.
Yeah. And I think, Nick, like you mentioned it not too long ago. I think, like you said, Stephen Kwan looks like one of the best players in baseball. And and you mentioned Tyler Freeman in center field, and I think having that stability in left field for Tyler Freeman, knowing that, okay, I'm okay when I go to my right. If he's playing center, not going towards right field, but I know I'm okay if anything's hit to my right. I got a Gold Glover out there that can, go make a play. And, Brennan's not bad defensively in right field either.
The funny thing is, guys, we haven't even mentioned Jose Ramirez yet.
Yeah, he hasn't been good this year, and
no, he hasn't.
Well, he leads the team in RBI. He's got 17 RBIs, but he's only hitting 239. He's gonna figure it out.
Swinging at everything. He is swinging at everything right now, and it's kind of hard to watch at times. He takes some really bad cuts, but he'll figure it out. He's Jose Ramirez.
I wonder if he's either A, not seeing it very well right now, or B, just feeling the pressure to try to push this team into that next stratosphere. You know what I mean?
I think I don't know if you guys watch the MLB Network, but Harold Reynolds has a segment called Hustling Jose.
Okay.
And he shows highlights of every single time Jose has a hustle play, like a hustle double or stuff like that. And at the end of it, he goes, kids, this is how baseball is meant to be played. He's like, this wears off on the rest of the team. He's like, you see those little blue pits the Guardians hit. He's like, there's a reason why they're top of the league in doubles every year. It's because of Jose.
Yeah.
He sets an example that just because a ball is hit into shallow right field on a single doesn't mean you have to get a single out of it.
Cleveland's so blessed to have a guy like Ramirez here and that wants to be here.
He's the perfect guy to be the face of the team. He's the perfect guy to have leading a team full of young guys. He's just the perfect face of the franchise almost.
He is.
And he's a guy that and him wanting to be there as well makes we really haven't had a guy that truly wanted to be there and wanted to sign the extension and take less money to stay here. So he's the perfect guy to lead this team. And I wanted to mention, two guys that have really impressed me this year for the Guardians that we haven't talked about yet are Estevan Florial's been pretty damn good lately. And he hits the crap out of it. When he hits the ball, he hits the shit out of the ball. He rips.
He does.
You don't say that very often when you're talking about the Guardians offense. It's nice to hear these things for once. I'm a Braves fan, but I live here. I'm in Northeast Ohio. It's fun to watch the Guardians win. I love it.
So if Esteban Flores, he takes walks, he hits the ball really hard. If he can just cut the strikeouts down a little bit, he will be a really solid player for this team, and he would be a steal of an acquisition from the Yankees. I mean, he hit 2 home runs against them in that series. That was pretty cool, seeing him hit that go-ahead home run.
Yeah.
Against
Benny can be a Carlos Santana type of guy, man. I mean, on-base percentage, high on-base percentage, a lot of contact.
And the other guy that I wanted to mention is Gabriel Arias. Gabriel Arias last year.
He stepped up this year.
Honestly, he Hello?
We good?
I think we lost you for a second, Nick. Yeah, I think we lost you.
All right, can you hear me now?
Yeah,
you're better now. Yeah, you're back.
All right. I was saying, I think last year Gabriel Arias was honestly done wrong by this organization. The way he would just sit on the bench for a week and then get thrown out there 1 day a week, pretty much. He never got a chance to get consistent ABs. And when he did start
AAA if you're gonna do that.
And when he did start getting in a groove, it's like it would be for like 5 games, then back to the bench. And then late in the year, he finally got some run, and he did struggle a bit. So a lot of people were down on him. Didn't think he was, and then this year, coming out of spring, Rocchio wins the shortstop job. People are kind of out on Arias. I always maintain that, again, he's another guy. If he puts it all together, he could be a special player. I haven't seen a righty drive the ball oppo like I can see him do. He hit a ball to the second bullpen, opposite field, 107 miles per hour off the bat. His opposite field power is ridiculous. He
hit one like that in spring training that I saw too. Yeah, he hit one. Yeah.
When he hits home runs, man, they're special to watch. And he's has an amazing arm at shortstop, amazing power, and he's a good defender as well at multiple positions. If he can, again, he's another guy. If he gets consistent ABs, if he can put it all together, he could be a really good player. I've said that for years about Arias. If he could be a really good player if everything develops right. It just hasn't. It didn't last year. Hopefully this year continues, and he could end up taking that shortstop job back from Rocchio. He could.
Guys, let me ask you this. Ben, you first. Do the Guardians win the AL Central this year?
I think so.
Yeah.
Just because
Detroit's playing pretty well, but I think, yeah.
But I mean, obviously, right now we're on pace for 112 wins. That's not you can't keep up that pace all year. I mean, that's not.
Probably not.
Okay, if the Guardians won 112 games, dude, I would count that as a win. Even if we lost in the first round of the world, even if we lost in the first round of the playoffs. Like, I mean, you win 112 games. I mean, how much more happy can you be?
Yeah.
I mean,
trust me, it's a little frustrating to win a bunch of regular season games and then lose to someone like the Phillies in the first round.
You would know, but you would know, but
you do. It doesn't taste good. I can tell you that.
I mean, we would know from losing to the Yankees and Astros in back-to-back years as well. So,
I'm sorry. One more time. I got my dog out of here. Now he's making a bunch of noise. Hold on.
Astros also cheated, so I mean, but
they weren't cheating that year technically, but yeah.
I mean, we don't know. It could have been. But I just think that this is the most excited I've been about a Guardians team this early into a season. Because
it's nice to see them get off to a good start. It's so rare. I mean, usually at this time we're looking at they're 6-14,
Yeah, they said it on the broadcast yesterday in the A's game. They're like, like under Terry Francona, you were so used to this team starting slow and catching heat, catching fire right around the All-Star break, and winning 20 out of 22, or winning 10 out of their last 15, and they go into the playoffs on like a 6-game winning streak. And it's like
this year.
But at this year too, like I told my dad, I said, I said, if I'm the Guardians, right, I want to hit that bad slump early in the season.
Yeah.
Get it out of the way, get it over with, and then just cruise the rest of the season, win the AL Central, and make the playoffs.
I don't disagree with that. Hey, real quick, we got about 7-8 minutes to go here. I want to talk about the Cavs because they're playing as we speak. Right now, with looks like 6 minutes left in the third, they're up 55-50 in game 1 on the Orlando Magic. Let me just ask you. I mean, the Cavs are the 4 seed, the Magic are the 5 seed. It's about as even as it gets, man. The Cavs are 48-34. Magic came in 47-35. Who has the advantage in this series? I mean, do you see the Cavs actually? I mean, we thought the Cavs had the advantage in the Knicks series last year, right?
Mm-hmm. I think you can go.
I think that if the Cavs, if the Cavs
Guardians win this series against the Magic, I'm going to be really impressed.
if the Cavs want the chance to win, you need Mobley and Allen to rebound the basketball. You can't get out rebounded by a guard like you did last year.
No.
Josh Hart out rebounded
Guardians, Josh Allen.
Who are we talking
about? I'm still in football mode. Sorry.
Bill Mickelson had an awful series last year against the Knicks. It was terrible. I mean, Lefty was bad from the bunker. It was bad. Terrible.
When Josh Hart out rebounds Jared Allen and Evan Mobley by 40 rebounds by himself, it's hard to win a basketball series. When a guy that's 6'5" is out rebounding two guys at 6'11", that cannot happen. That cannot happen.
That's awful.
No.
And I mean, obviously, we know Donovan Mitchell is going to get his buckets. He always does, right?
Yeah.
But who's going to be?
But is he going to be healthy enough? Is he going to be healthy enough to be that superstar?
And that's where I'm going. Who's going to be that second dominant scorer? Last year, you had Darius Garland, who was up around 23, 24 points.
Yeah.
And
here's the problem: the Cavs are built so awkwardly. They have two ball dominant guards, right? That can't really play with each other. And then they have Mobley and Allen, who they don't really space the floor that well for two big guys. They're just built really awkwardly right now to me. I don't know.
No, I agree.
I agree. Definitely.
I think though with the Cavs, I really do. I think Mobley and Allen can play together. I do, just because they both can defend on the perimeter, and so I mean Mobley's improving. Because if you're
cutting out just a little bit on us, Nick, just so you know.
Okay, can you hear? Am I all right now?
Yeah, I think you're back now. We're on the OMS Wi-Fi right now. Is what's going on.
Yeah. But I was saying that I think Mobley and Allen can play together. Mm-hmm. I don't think Donovan and Darius can play together. Is my opinion. Because if you just look at all the numbers on court versus off court, the numbers are all significantly better when it's only one of them in the game. Yeah. And Darius's play has dropped off this year. It really has. He has not been the same player this season as he was a few years ago. I think at this point, again, I do think the Cavs have the advantage in this series over the Magic, because Magic are very playoff and not experienced in the playoffs, and the Magic don't have that guard like Jalen Brunson that can just cook us like he did last season. Yeah. If you look at the Cavs, most of their best defense comes from inside the 3-point line. That's where they play their best defense.
Yeah.
So they don't.
I have a feeling the Cavs are going to have a hard time with Paolo in this series, though. I don't know why. I just have a feeling the Cavs are going to have a hard time with him, man.
So far, I watched the first quarter. Georges Niang was guarding him, and he was doing a pretty good job. I mean, I was surprising that Georges Niang was doing a good job on him. But
I mean, Nick, going back to what you said about Mitchell and Garland not being able to play together, didn't the Cavs win like 17 out of 19 without Darius Garland?
Yes, they did.
Yeah,
they did.
And I mean, Donovan Mitchell was playing the 1. You had Mitchell at the 1. You had LeVert at the 2. Or no, you had Strus at the 2. You had LeVert at the 3. You had Mobley at the 4 and Allen at the 5. Right?
No, I mean, again, I think this offseason, this series matters so much for the Cavs. If they lose first round to this unexperienced Orlando team, JB's gone, Donovan's gone, Garland, like the whole team's getting shaken up if they lose this series. So this series,
maybe Mobley's like the only guy that really survives. Yeah.
Yeah, because he'd be the guy you would turn to build around if Donovan's gone, probably. So this series means so much to the Cavs. They need to win this series, and if they at least can win this series, it would calm some people down. It's like, okay, you took a step this year. You won a series.
Yeah. And win a couple of games in round 2. That'd be great. Yeah.
Again, I'm not expecting us to beat Boston, even if we do win this series. I just want to win this damn series. Just win one series.
But the Cavs really do kind of match up well against Boston, to be honest with you. Like, they match up okay.
Boston's a wagon this year.
No, they're a machine. I mean, they're a machine.
They're a wagon this year. I don't expect us to beat them. And I'm not going to be that mad if we lose to Boston. I will be mad if we lose first round, because if they lose first round, the Donovan Mitchell trade talk is already very loud. It will get even louder if he loses.
Yes, it will.
If we lose the series. And I think so. If they lose this series, whole team's getting flipped over. Changes are being made. If they win this series, I still think you need to make some changes. I still think trading Garland for a wing would be my ideal trade. I don't know who that wing is. I don't know who
3-and-D guy.
But then you still need to get a guard, because but then you still need to get a
Donovan and LeVert, or Donovan and Okoro, or Donovan and someone.
Then you don't really have the thing with Garland is he's got the ability to make plays and set. He's around like a 6 assists a game. I mean.
I'm bad at this game. I'm bad at the NBA game. But listen, I like the matching players, the teams game. I hate matching money, but I know he's not going to be available. But would Bradley Beal would a guy of his profile fit this team?
He could. I mean, I still think you need him less. I think he's still more of a ball in hands guy where he
maybe you're right. Yeah.
But I mean, I always was saying before he got traded to the Knicks that OG Anunoby would be a perfect fit on this team. Just a guy like that, a long, lengthy wing that can shoot.
Somebody who can catch and shoot would be ideal.
Yeah, and play solid perimeter defense. I get Isaac Okoro's kind of like a light version of that, but he still doesn't shoot the three well enough to maybe put him next to Garland and to have him in the game with not Garland, Allen and Mobley.
Yeah.
Like having those three on the court at the same time, that doesn't usually work.
Yeah.
So I still think even if they win this series, if they win this series, it could save JB's job, which I still think he could be gone either way, even if they do win this series.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, I do as well.
There's a lot when there's reports going around about the coach maybe getting fired from the NBA. Usually, that coach is going to get fired.
We've seen coaches get fired for a lot less here, right? Like, it's happened.
No, you don't start rumors about coaches getting fired unless that coach is legitimate, unless there's real rumblings going on about it.
Well, do you guys remember the Dwayne Casey situation from Toronto?
Yeah,
let him do the one seed every year, every year, and then he got fired. I mean, okay,
this year, Milwaukee,
give or take. I mean, give or take, yes. He did have to try and beat LeBron every year, but he's winning you basketball games. He's giving you a chance.
Nobody was going to beat LeBron those years. Nobody.
No. Like, I don't care if
nobody was going to get them over that hump. Nobody.
No, I don't care if you put Phil Jackson as that coach. You're still not beating
LeBron. Unless he brought LeBron with him, nobody was getting over that hump.
I mean, and Bickerstaff's winning games, but we've seen the last 2 years they have that spell where they can't win a basketball game.
Yeah.
And last year it just happened.
It comes in April.
It just seems to me like the Cavs don't really have like a set. Like they go off their game. Like what makes them good? They lose to teams. Like they lose in ways where teams beat them by how they should be beating teams almost. Like
they lose by their strength. Yes.
It's just weird to me.
Yeah.
They coast, and it seems like they just kind of coast off. Like when they're going well, it's kind of just Donovan Mitchell doing everything on offense and the defense playing good. That's all talent based. That's not.
And then Garland is searching for shots everywhere, so he's forcing stuff up. Yeah, but even then,
quarters sometimes. Shots. So again, I think the Cavs do win this series. I'm going to say the Cavs win in 6 games, but I still think that even if they win this series, JB could be gone, and I think that he probably will be gone if they lose in the first or second round. But I just hope they win this series, man. I really hope they win this series.
I don't want to tell you guys this, but unfortunately, I have the Magic winning in 6, man. I'm sorry to say that. I think they're going to win.
Get off
the
show. Leave.
I know.
Leave. Get out. Okay, get out.
I'm
leave.
Just turn my volume down.
I think we either get swept in 5 games by Boston in round 2. I think sweep 5 games maybe in round 2 to Boston.
Yeah.
But I do think they can pull this series out. But this is just like I said last year, though. That's what's conflicting me a bit because last year I'm like, we're so much more talented than the Knicks. Of course we should beat them.
Of course we'll beat them in 5 or 6 games. Yeah, the gentleman's sweep. Yeah.
Yeah, and that didn't happen. So I look at our roster compared to the Magic's roster. We're way more talented than them. We're way more playoff experience than them.
Here we are again.
We have the best player in the series. We should win this series.
Let me check the score before we quit talking about this. I have an NBA question for you guys. It's not Ben. I know we usually do trivia questions, but I didn't want to give Nick a trivia question without giving him some kind of heads up, right? So I'm just going to ask you guys this question. I think this is. I just want to ask you a general NBA question that's kind of been burning a hole in my brain. And Nick, I'll get your thoughts first on this, and Ben, you can go. Let's talk about NBA head coaches. And I know neither of you guys knew this was coming, but who did more with less? And I know this is a weird question because both of these coaches had quite a bit, but I think you'll understand my point once you hear it. Who did more with less, Phil Jackson or Greg Popovich?
More with less? I would say Greg Popovich, honestly.
Okay.
Just the reason I say that is because if you look at those Spurs teams, Tim Duncan, Tony Parker, Manu Ginobili, great players for sure.
Yeah.
But you look at those 3 guys compared to some of the other rosters around that time, there were teams with more with more stacked rosters than that. There were. And somehow every single year the Spurs would win 60 games. They'd at least make a deep playoff run. They won 5 titles. And in my opinion, the best Spurs team maybe of them all was in 2014 when they beat the Miami Heat. And that team did not have a 20-point per game score in the regular season. They didn't have a 20-point per game score in the finals. And they still beat I think they gentlemen swept the Heat that year in the finals, and they won 60-something games. I think 63 games, and they were just the best player on that team was scoring 16, 17 points per game. It was like 37-year-old Tim Duncan and like 25-year-old Kawhi Leonard. Really young team. That team was not the most talented team, but they killed
or the most athletic. Yeah, or the most athletic, or the most skilled, or the most anything. I mean, yeah.
So I'd say Greg Popovich for sure.
Yeah, okay. I'm gonna have to agree with you, Nick. Greg Popovich. You know, I just want to throw aside the year the Warriors went 73-9, right?
I know what you're gonna say. This is wild.
The Spurs went like 67-15 or something like that.
Yep. Yeah.
And the Spurs had a better home record than the Golden State Warriors.
They were 40-1, weren't they?
Yeah, they were 40-1.
That's wild.
Like,
that's wild.
And that team I think was led by Kawhi Leonard only.
Kawhi and LaMarcus. It was Kawhi and LaMarcus Aldridge.
Again. Okay, Kawhi Leonard's a good player. Okay, he's probably a great player if you look back on it. But let me just list some of the players that Phil Jackson had a couple average guys named Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant. They didn't do anything.
Shaquille O'Neal.
Yeah, he probably had like maybe the 50th best center of all time in Shaquille O'Neal. No problem. His role players were nobodies. Scottie Pippen, Dennis Rodman, Tony Kukoc, nobodies, right? Like
Ron Harper.
These guys were all legitimately top 100 guys all time, right? Like, well, obviously Jordan, Kobe, and Shaq are, but like Pippen, Rodman, Kukoc, well, maybe not Kukoc. Kukoc is probably top 200 all time, but Kukoc was a 6'10" assassin in the 90s when that didn't happen, man. Like, you didn't see those guys in the league.
I mean, Ron Harper and Steve Kerr.
Yeah, Ron Harper, Steve Kerr. B.J. Armstrong was deadly from downtown. Horace Grant was unbelievable at the power forward. I mean, they had good centers that could pass the ball. Like, Phil Jackson had amazing rosters. I mean, I know we don't give guys like Will Perdue and whatever, Bill Carr. We don't give those guys a lot of credit, but I mean, they were amazing passers at the center position.
Those late 90s Bulls rosters are ridiculous, and that's why it is kind of bugs me when people are like, "Oh, Jordan Jordan gets all the credit," but those rosters were like so deep, so many really good players on that team.
Perfect, yeah.
Okay, speaking of the Bulls rosters being insane, when Michael Jordan trusts Steve Kerr over himself for the final shot, what does that say?
Yeah. I mean, Michael Jordan, one of the best shooter. He's one of the best shooters of all time.
Yeah. And like I said, when Michael Jordan, who everybody says is the greatest of all time, trusts their teammate over themselves.
Yeah.
Okay. But here's a counter argument to that. LeBron's done that his whole career. But also, LeBron also makes the right decision. When he needs to shoot, he shoots.
Yeah. And that's not shying away from the moment either, by the way. I think that's just finding the open shot. Yeah.
It is. Like that Danny Green shot, like that in the finals when they passed it to Danny Green and Danny Green bricked it. LeBron came out and said, "I'm making that pass 10 times out of 10." He goes, "Not one time will I shoot that ball."
That's the basketball move. That's the move.
Shooter, so,
but the time
that's why you signed Danny Green. He's there for that. Yeah.
Yep. But the time when LeBron said, "Okay, I need to shoot this ball," that Pacers series in 2018, I think, when he catches that inbound pass, turns around and chucks up a 3 over Oladipo and banks it in. That's when LeBron was like, "Hey, this ball's in my hands. I'm shooting this shot."
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, LeBron's obviously had great rosters too, but I mean, those 90s Bulls teams are the most stacked rosters of all time. Honestly.
They were perfectly constructed. I mean, they were perfectly
role players, and they had role players take less money to go there because they knew that was the only chance they had at winning a championship.
That's what I was just going to say. You had guys that would come off the bench, and there was no letdown. I mean, almost at every position except for Jordan. Obviously, you had a little bit of letdown when Jordan came off the floor, but. Yeah, I mean, you had guys that, for the most part, were playing every other position. They were almost carbon copies of each other. I mean, it was wild.
I do think Phil Jackson deserves credit for because again, as soon as he took over is when they started winning championships. The guy before
the sideline triangle revolutionized basketball. I don't want to not give Phil Jackson credit. I just think pound for pound, Greg Popovich is probably the better head coach.
Oh, he definitely is, in my opinion. Phil Jackson as well. Like again, his teams, those Lakers teams at the end with Kobe, Powell, those were also really, really good teams. But I mean, those teams weren't maybe as stacked as the teams he had before. So winning those championships, those are pretty impressive. Yeah. I still think the argument anytime you argue oh, this coach had talent, you need talent to win a championship.
Have to have it.
Yeah.
So
wait, you do?
Anytime you argue, A lot of people say Steve Kerr's a bad coach. I disagree, honestly, because if you look at the Warriors, they were kind of first-round exits. Then Steve Kerr takes over, win championship. Like so clearly he did something there. And
who did Steve Kerr learn under? I mean, some of the best, right? Michael Jordan, Phil Jackson, right? Like again, not taking credit away from Phil Jackson. He won 11 titles. That's ridiculous.
Again, so
coaching
matters.
That's ridiculous.
Coaching does matter. So I hate. So I mean, but having star players matters the most. That's what matters the most in basketball.
I mean, but
you can't have the cast of cheers out there winning championships. Like, you got to have some good players. Yeah.
But I want to say, I think Greg Popovich is also probably better at developing young players. That's why he said he's still in it today, because he's in it to develop young players. Because he said the thrill of seeing these guys get better and better is what brings joy to his heart now, because he's able to develop these young players.
Before we go, I have one quick thing. I think this is going to kind of seal my argument, at least in my mind. I don't know if I'm going to convince anybody else that didn't believe me or whatever, but for me, it's like the Urban Meyer effect. Urban Meyer came in to Ohio State and didn't have the ideal roster, right? But he put together a game plan and a strategy. They went 12-0. Okay. Phil Jackson formulated the sideline triangle, and then he always acquired players to fit that system, and they fit it perfectly. I don't think Popovich, I mean, the system hasn't always been exactly the same in San Antonio, right?
He bends it around his players.
Yeah. And I think that is the sign of the best coach. Like, when you can give anybody, when you can give a coach anybody, any roster, and he can make that team competitive because he can find a way to use those players, I think that's the sign of the best coach.
The one thing Popovich does do is the one common thing with Popovich is ball movement. That's always been the Spurs thing, is ball movement.
But that's the key to basketball, right? You got to find guys that do that. Yeah.
And so he would go out and he would look to maybe acquire guys who are open. He wouldn't acquire a selfish player. Popovich doesn't like, the Spurs don't like selfish players. That was kind of their thing. They wouldn't. So Popovich would go out and find guys that were unselfish and that would.
They've never had a ball dominant scorer. They've never had a ball dominant scorer. Maybe Kawhi Leonard's the closest guy. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Tony Parker had the ball a lot, but he would get it down to Tim Duncan. He would get it down to Manu.
Yeah.
He would get it.
Yeah, he distributed all over the place. Yeah.
I mean, and that's why. Go ahead.
I have a take on Tony Parker. I think he could have been a 20, 25-point scorer for his career on another team.
Yep.
He was a
I agree with you.
Insane. He could have been a 20 to 25-point scorer in a lot of other teams. I agree. But he bought into.
But he gave up for the greater good.
Yeah.
And
another guy that did. Same with Manu.
I was just about to say that another guy that did that was Manu Ginobili. I just heard a story on TikTok that when Manu Ginobili first got moved to the bench, he was livid with Greg Popovich because he wanted to start. He thought he was a better player, and Greg Popovich straight up told him and said, "Hey, like, I need you as my captain off the bench. Like, when Parker's not out there, when you come in for Tony, he's like, I need you to be the leader." And that's why a lot of times Manu ended up playing point guard when Tony was off the floor, because he wanted Manu off the bench. Or especially in those late games, like when maybe Tony Parker and Tim Duncan need a break, you can throw out Manu and you don't miss anything. You don't miss that leadership.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Popovich is the best coach of all time, in my opinion.
Do we have a guest? Do we have a guest on the show? Oh, I thought we had a guest. I was excited. Okay, well, listen, before we make this a feature-length film, we probably should get out of here. I want to tell you, I'm doing this update like we're doing the show live, but the Cavs have completely opened it up on the Magic. They're up 78-58 now with about 11 minutes to go in the fourth. Cool. So I know basketball is a game of runs, but they're up 20. It looks pretty good right now in the fourth quarter for game one.
This is a good start.
Yeah, absolutely. This is great.
Hey, are the two centers getting out-rebounded by a guard?
Probably. No, I would hope not at this point. If you're winning by 20, you're probably not getting out-rebounded by a guard, I would imagine. Hey, but listen, for our friend Nick, we got to do this again, man. This was fun, right? Like, we got to do this again.
I agree. No, I agree.
Absolutely. We'll get you back on the show. Man, we're starting to record some more episodes of Generation Flex. We'll have you on there too, man. Ben, we'll have you on. Whatever, man. Whatever you guys want to be on. I have so many shows I can't even keep up. I don't even remember the names of all the shows I'm on right now. I can't even remember what I'm doing. But again, for Nick Tarorick, for Ben Bales, I'm Chad Bryan. This has been the Sports Show, still with no name. I think we're just going to rock without a name forever now. We're going with the Sports Show with no name. That's our name. But again, Nick, thanks for coming on, man. We appreciate it. It's good talking sports with you again, man.
It was,
No, of course.
And Ben, it's always good talking sports with you. Listen, man, you guys have a great rest of your weekend, and we want to thank you guys for watching. Remember to just listen. I mean, like, subscribe, please comment. Let us know if we said anything that you think is absolutely crazy. If you think Phil Jackson is by far the best coach of all time, it's not Greg Pop, whatever. Let us know. Comment. Again, like and subscribe. It helps us grow. Share our videos. Tell your friends, tell your hide your wives, hide your children, whatever. Don't hide anybody. Don't hide anybody from our show. Show our show to everybody. But again, thank you guys for watching. We appreciate it. We'll see you on the next episode. Bye-bye.
Peace.
Peace.